We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route and how fast. Almost all the world's constitutions are documents in which governments tell the people what their privileges are.
Hi everyone, welcome once again to yet another episode of Two Noobs Talking. It's episode 81, and with me, of course, are my two good friends, Mr. John Tracy. John, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Just pointing over to the guy that ain't here.
Oh, I know. I'm looking at him right now, and he's not even showing up. It's crazy.
No,
oh, here he is.
Is this all of it? All right, no problem.
Apparently, the refs are getting paid off. I don't know if you guys watched. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to cash in. Take advantage of the fact of some questionable officiating above the border these last few days. I'm not talking about the Sixers either.
So with John Tracy and with Steve Murray, I'm Matt Craig. We're all happy to have you with us. It's episode 81 of Two Noobs Talking. Gents, before we get started, how you guys both doing?
Keep the big bills on the outside.
There you go.
Yes. Well,
$5.
Well, home, not in an undisclosed location anymore.
Well, there you go. Yeah, John, now back from the undisclosed location, barely with the truck almost dying. That's an
undisclosed home location.
Now I'm in an undisclosed home location. With
there you go.
With my peoples back there.
There you go.
I put the Phillies thing up today.
There you go. Yeah.
My favorite. That's my favorite thing.
The thing that's over your thing?
Yeah. That thing. That's my favorite thing I've ever owned.
Yeah.
The piece of artwork. Got it.
For the audio listeners, it's a Phillies logo that goes back, kind of like changes the logo from one end to the other. Kind of
80s to 90s.
80s to 90s. It's pretty cool.
It was a gift, and it's always a pretty. It's followed me for 20 years.
I love that. Absolutely. That Flyers thing that I have there in the back, that's like a cross-stitch logo. I have no idea who made it. I have no idea how I got it. I think it was a Christmas gift somehow. Might have been a stocking stuffer. But I love it. I think it's great. The team, not so much. Team, thank God, is going to be ending its season mercilessly for that point. But
I like the game, Steve.
Mercifully, yeah.
What's that?
I really liked that game the other day.
He was involved.
Yeah, we watched hockey like that when we were younger. Maybe not as close.
Look at that puck! Look at that puck go!
Watching that intently, I was
just going to say that cat would have been like enthralled with the whole the fox tracks. The cat must have probably would have been going nuts.
It simply reminded me of that. Like I was like, wow, the head movement was so.
He was tracking perfect. It.
Yeah,
That's awesome. That's hilarious.
I wish he would have been there, and I would have timed it for that hand pass goal. That would have been hysterical.
Was he dejected when the hand pass goal happened?
No, he was up in arms about it. He's like, "What the hell? What do you mean we can't challenge that? It's in the rule book."
Love it. So, guys, here we go. Episode 81, and of course, who wore episode 81 in the city of Philadelphia? Well, maybe not the episode, but the number.
Yes.
That would be fascinating if an athlete.
Be fascinating. Someone did wear an episode number. Yeah, exactly. There was one flyer which I was graciously corrected before we went live. Philadelphia Flyer. Was it again?
Carson Twarynski.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah.
Thanks for remembering that.
My God, I would have butchered his name.
There was like a Connor, a Carson, a Phillip. There was like 5 people involved in that thing.
It was terrible.
I got confused because his name is too close to Tanner Lazinski.
Yeah.
That sounds very similar.
It really does.
I couldn't remember which one was which.
Yeah.
The question is, the player that wore it for the Eagles is not a Connor or Carson.
No.
What is it, Steve?
Well, I mean, we got a ton of them that wore
that one. Oh yeah. All right. Yeah, you want this one?
Go for it.
This may be the best name ever, replacing good old Newsy.
Love it.
Bibbles Bobble.
And if you think we're looking it up, ProFootballReference.com, look it up. He's listed there. And 1952 is when he played for the Philadelphia Eagles and wore 81. How about that?
Spelled B-A-B-B-L-E. B-A-W-E-L, if I remember.
That is correct. Yes, last name B-A-W-E-L, Bibbles.
But according when we Googled it, it said pronunciation is Bobble.
Bibbles Bobble.
Bibbles
I mean,
Bobble.
hey man.
Is he carrying the ring to the lava to get rid of it? Like,
My question is, what if he has a Bibbles Bobble bobblehead? That's my question. Bobblehead giveaway.
I think we need to contact his family right now and produce that.
I mean, that would be tremendous, right?
That's money right there.
That is money right there.
His money, that kid's money.
But the other thing too is we also have like a lot of the Eagles we kind of grew up with, really, that have worn 81. Jordan Matthews, of course. When he first started.
On his Carson Love retread. We'll call it.
No. 81.
No.
81 was the original.
81 was before. No, 80 was his Carson Love retread. Sorry,
Right.
I just got me into Carson. I apologize.
That's okay. No worries. We also had Jason Avant, the definition of a possession receiver. Catch, fall forward for the first down, right? I mean, that was
Michigan's
the
finest.
All
he does was catch first downs. Andy Reid's quote off of the joke of what Buddy Ryan said about Chris Carter.
Chris Carter. Yeah, that's right.
All he does is cut touchdowns, and he cuts them. Andy Reid did a schmirky little thing.
Yeah.
I love Jason Avant. All he does is catch first downs.
There you go.
Andy Reid smile because he controlled the media here.
Loved it.
Nobody was in control.
Good professional guy.
Good professional receiver, absolutely. We also had Kenny Jackson back in the day in the mid 80s. I think he was like the speedster receiver. Of course, there was no one throwing the football, but that was pretty much it, for him in his career.
A long time ago, but I remember Kenny Jackson.
And then we also had Roy Green here, and the guys were kind of like, well, who the heck was Roy Green? Well, he was a really good receiver for the St. Louis Cardinals in the mid 80s. He was excellent receiver. And he signed here as a free agent in 90. I think he was either traded or I think it was probably a trade. He came here in 91. And so he was here for maybe a season and a half or something like that. Clearly at the tail end of his career. But he was here and played somewhat decent. And then, of course, we had the sit-up artist.
Yes.
T.O., who blew his main opportunity to really become one of the greatest Philadelphia Eagles of all time when he went dog shit over the whole contract, right, guys? I mean, that was pretty much that whole summer.
But that year before, wow.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
Just to go back to the preseason game, Baltimore Ravens, Donovan takes 3 steps and throws an 80-yard bomb to him, like literally, to set the tone.
Yeah.
And the fact that he got that horse collar tackle from that douchebag from Dallas hurts his knee, comes back with screws in it in the Super Bowl, and still had a pretty decent performance. That
was probably one of the more gutsier performances I think I've ever seen in a major championship game for a guy that had a broken ankle. Essentially.
And much love to him because at 48 years old, he just got a touchdown pass in whatever fucking league he's playing in now.
Yeah.
I love your grit.
I'll
be a fan of him forever. I really will be.
As I understand it, that league allows the fans to call the plays.
That's awesome.
That is pretty cool.
Sounds like a Too Noobs special. Why aren't we hooked up with
We should be in on that. I'm
kind of curious. Like, I guess, do they broadcast it or do you do a vote and then they pick the play from that?
You have the extent of my knowledge right there is that fans call the plays.
All I know is he ran into what seemed to be the end zone and did what T.O. normally does and just bullied the dude away, turned around, caught the ball, fell down, and then celebrated. T.O. special.
T.O. special.
If it had been worth 14 points, they might have won the game. But
exactly.
There you go.
But it was literally the same thing. I don't even know if the dude was throwing the ball well. A la Donovan in the Super Bowl when he was catching shit behind his back. But literally, he bullied a dude, caught the ball, fell down, touchdown.
Touchdown. There you go.
Oh, I know.
That's T.O. So there you go. Well, guys, here we go as we kick off episode 81 with topic 1. And, last week, of course, we had some technical difficulties getting on episode 80, which, by the way, we're going to release on Sunday night. We're recording this Saturday, Sunday night. Episode 80. This is coming out on its regular normal time.
We did it. That's Matt and Steve shit on the edit. will be.
Yeah. Now you're really confusing people because by the time this episode premieres, 80 will have already premiered on a Sunday. So now you're really just confused.
So it's like,
Just premiere them.
We're all level set from now on. We're all level set.
Should
so
premiere them on the exact same Wednesday and fuck people for figuring it out.
They're gonna double dose of Jordan Matthews.
I love it.
That's what I'm saying.
I love it.
Both at the same time. Fuck you. Watch whatever you want to watch. We don't care.
Exactly.
We're just here having fun.
Topic one here, guys. We're talking about the CDC mandates with the whole masks on airplanes. Well, a federal judge in Florida, a Trump-appointed,
airplanes. It was
everything,
all transportation,
all transportation, right?
Buses, cabs,
you name it,
Ubers, Lyfts, anything that was involved in federal
drop kicked into the ocean thanks to this Trump-appointed judge. You can find, of course, CNN. We have this. Her name, Catherine Kimball Mizell, said the mandate was unlawful because it exceeded the statutory authority of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And because its implementation violated administrative law. Go, John.
I got one question for Steve, being the lawyer that kind of helps us out.
There you go.
The same thing with the OSHA Cinco. There you go. I'm thinking 81 on the break. When they made that OSHA can't do that thing, is that similar? Because overreach seems to be a word that people like to use at this point when they're writing. Overreach seems to be, that's what I want to kind of break it down for people. Is this overreach similar to that, or is it completely different?
I don't remember the exact basis for the Supreme Court decision that struck down the vaccine mandate.
OSHA couldn't do it because they weren't. That's not what they do.
Well, in that sense, not exactly. The statute that gives the CDC its power is, I'm going to use lawyer speak right here, 42 USC section 264. Section A says the Surgeon General can make regulations. This is what gives the CDC the power to make rules.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Can make regulations to prevent the introduction, transmission, or spread of diseases from foreign countries into the states or from one state to another. Now that's separation of powers, federal versus state.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
And that actually does play a little bit into this decision. But the statute goes on to say, in order to make these rules or do whatever the Surgeon General needs to do to prevent all this disease from spreading, etc., the Surgeon General can provide for, and this becomes important, inspection, fumigation, disinfection, sanitation, pest extermination, destruction, and other measures. And that's section A. Sections B to D of this statute deal with the apprehension and detention of certain individuals based on where they're coming from.
Okay.
So I think one of them is like foreign travelers from a foreign country, or for the detention and release, etc., of individuals reasonably believed to be infected. Reasonably believed to be infected. So the first part of the opinion that deals with the CDC overreaching under its statute, the government tried to argue that the universal masking on federal transportation fit within the part of the statute that says sanitation. So that's where the fight was.
Interesting.
Weird.
That's
so and you mentioned it's a Trump appointed judge. I actually read the opinion before I read it. I thought Trump appointed judge. a right-wing issue of removing the masks. I'm concerned there's going to be. I actually thought the opinion was actually fairly well thought out and explained.
Okay.
And what the opinion does here is it looks at the definition of the term sanitation, and it actually said there's two definitions. One is sanitation from the perspective of like cleaning. I'm sanitizing it. And then there is the definition the government seized on, which was more broadly sort of like, oh, we're sanitizing, we've got protection to keep everything sanitized.
Okay. Makes complete. It is similar to like when you were talking about the OSHA ruling. You can put a vaccine in, but you can't take a vaccine out. Very similar. Not the same, but very similar kind of concept of you don't have the ability to rule.
Well,
it's not just that too, but it's the subtleness of this whole thing about the whole word regarding sanitation. Because to Steve's point, you can sanitize a countertop, but the act of wearing a mask as a sanitation,
it's not sanitizing.
And this is where the judge, I think she did a pretty good job. She said, all right, well, we got to figure out which one of these definitions should apply.
Yeah.
And one of the things you can do under statutory construction in court is you look at the surrounding context of the statute. So what she did was she looked at the other words around here: inspection, fumigation, disinfection, extermination. These are all like active cleaning.
Yeah,
makes sense,
right? And so the judge was like, well, that definition seems to make sense within the context of everything else that surrounded it.
Sure does, yeah.
And if you take the government's position of sanitation, the broader definition, you kind of render all those other terms meaningless. So that's where she came down on how the definition of sanitation, and under that definition, the masking mandate doesn't fit within these powers that the Surgeon General has given for prevention of control.
Interesting.
Now, a second part of this overreach was the judge, and I didn't follow this as clearly, but the judge said Section A applies to like property. Okay. So you inspect, you fumigate, you disinfect property, you exterminate pests. I think that one of the things was you could destroy animals who are potential carriers. That's property. Sections B through D deal with individual liberties. And part of that was the penalty for not complying with the mask mandate was potentially criminal. There were civil penalties and also criminal penalties. So the judge was like, well, you are basically, I don't want to say in prison, that's the word I'm looking for, or detaining. You're preventing people from traveling unless they meet this mandate. But the problem with the sections B to D from the government's perspective is they are based on either where you're coming from, or whether you are believed reasonably to be infected. And the universal mask mandate doesn't account for either of those things.
Interesting.
Because it applies whether or not you're reasonably to be believed to be infected or not.
Interesting.
And it applies whether you're coming from a foreign country or whether you're just taking the bus from City Hall down to the stadium. Right?
Interesting. Wow.
And so therein also lies federal versus state.
Yeah.
Right. So, airplanes makes a little bit more sense federally, but why does this also apply to city bus routes?
Interesting. Yeah.
And privatized companies.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That was the interesting part.
And not to mention churches and other office buildings and other,
No.
This is only transportation.
Only in transportation. Gotcha. Okay.
But
Gotcha.
It gave carte blanche to Lyft, Uber, and each city to be like, oh, well, there's a federal mask mandate. We can put it here. And I think that might be where their overreach is coming.
Interesting.
Well, the overreach was the statute doesn't give them the authority
to do that.
To this interpretation to do what they did. And then comes the second problem for the government, which was as an administrative agency to make a rule, you have to follow the Administrative Procedures Act. I think we talked about this with the OSHA thing too.
A couple times, yeah. No, we've actually talked about this a couple times throughout Too Noobs.
Yeah.
When you promulgate a rule, you are required under the APA to give what's called the notice and comment period. You are supposed to put out a notice of the rule you're trying to make and give the public at least 30 days to make comments so that they can participate in this process. Now, there's exceptions for, the court said, when it's impracticable, unnecessary, or contrary to public interest. That's when you can say, no, we're not giving the 30 days notice. So the government, when they passed the CDC mandate for the universal masking on transportation, they said they did not do the 30-day comment period. And they said, well, it's COVID. It's public health. It's against public interest to do comments. The court, I think, actually really did a great job of countering that because it pointed out this mandate didn't come out until I think January 2021.
Interesting. Yeah.
So the court was like, we're a year into the pandemic. And it actually took them 2 weeks after Biden told them to do it that they put the rule out.
Wow.
So why is this an emergency? And it's 11 months after Trump declared COVID-19 a national emergency.
Yeah.
So now why all of a sudden
wow,
can we not give the public 30 days to comment on this?
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
And the court also noted at the time cases were starting to decline.
Starting to go down. Exactly. Yeah. And that's a great point. Wow, that's just the whole thing for me, Steve. That's such a great analysis, first of all, and thank you for bringing it.
Thank you very much, Steve. You broke that down.
I think from a moral perspective, it's amazing the level of, I don't want to say negativity or depravity or whatever the case may be, of people gaining power and just saying, hey, this is going to be for your own protection. It's almost as if like you're not capable of making your own personal decision on your own health. Therefore, we're going to come in. We know better. We've seen the statistics, even though they're widely shared across this entire United States. And we know what this virus does. Therefore, we're going to protect you and you have to put on gloves. I remember that in the early days. We got to put on gloves. We got to put on the mask. Sometimes you got to do double masking. It's insidious too that this is happening, or that did happen. And fortunately, we have courts like this and judges that look at this and look at words like sanitation and go, okay, I know when you clean this, that makes sense. But when you throw it on your face to sanitize, it's like, that was huge. I think that's just
to me, you can debate the benefits and drawbacks of masks, and I don't like them personally.
Yep.
This certainly, I think a state would have much more power to implement a rule like this.
Lots more power. Also, to your point with the mask, you could debate. This isn't just COVID. Mm-hmm. You could debate the masks across the board with influenza. You can debate the allergies.
Sure.
You can debate that. There are scientific proof all over the place. I'm not for them, but there's scientific proof that say that any kind of filtration to your nose and mouth is a good thing. It's not a preventative measure, but it could be a good thing. Why do you cover your mouth when you cough?
Yeah.
You know
or
what I mean?
Sneeze.
You're protecting extra projected. There's tons of science out there. But to Matt's point and to Steve's point with the with the judge, it's not the government's job.
Yeah.
To tell you to cover your mouth when you cough, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do that out of common courtesy, obviously. But yeah, I mean,
look, the CDC can make recommendations
all day long.
Absolutely.
But that's just it. That's it.
That's their job.
That's their job. To make recommendations,
not laws.
My point is, whether you're for masks or not, this is a matter of the government following the rules. For making the rules.
Yes. No, you're absolutely
clearly. I until I saw the case, and I'd never read the statute before. It's not my area of law.
Sure.
Once I read the statute, I'm like, where do they get the power to make a rule like this?
Yeah.
I don't see it in the statute.
Yeah. Anywhere.
Right?
There's a lot of that. Like, even going back into 2016 all the way up to now. This isn't just a Biden problem.
Oh no, not at all.
This has been a problem for a while. Like they like to just make laws and be like, oh, we made them because we can.
We can.
No, you can't technically, because when we get these to judges, they're knocking them down left and right.
Yeah, which is in a way a very, very good thing.
It's giving the state the power back, which needs to happen.
Yeah. And that's always been the argument in the United States, has been federal versus state power. And that debate will always continue long after all three of us are gone.
Oh, yeah.
As to whether or not this government will, continue down the road. And you can see, if you're looking at it from a liberal perspective, you want that federal power because everything is consolidated. The problem is, when you have that, you have bumbling idiots like a Fauci, like a Biden, like a Trump, like, you name it. They could not govern themselves out of a wet paper bag, even if they tried. And that's the problem, really. And it's like, it really comes down to the people making that ultimate decision and call to make whether or not they choose to wear masks in the face of a pandemic or not. It's not up to the government to make it. And that's always going to be a big-time debate. Big time.
Wise man once said to me, you know why they're president? Because they can't be a mayor. Because they can't talk to the people.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand what that meant for years and years and years. And let's not go with Philadelphia mayors. Let's go with other that actually do their job. Yeah. That's just a shot at Philly being terrible with their mayorship.
No.
But being closer to the people, you need to be more accountable.
Yes.
You're talking about presidents, vice presidents, you're talking about congressmen and senators that are not, as much as they want to tell you, they're working for the people there. They're not.
Well, that's the point of this notice and comment period.
Yeah, and that's
it's to give the people the chance to weigh in
big time
on these rules.
We should have had that opportunity.
No question.
Absolutely.
No question.
And there's another part of the opinion I didn't explain, but another thing that got struck down on was you have to, as an agency, explain why you make the decisions that you want to make.
I love
and
that.
They gave a single sentence, which we refer to it in legal terms as conclusory, meaning it's just kind of a bald statement. It's not supported. A lot of times when you pass these rules, you get like pages and pages of this is why we did this, and there's explanation. And this was such a half-ass attempt by the CDC.
Wow.
To pass this rule. And it's like, what about alternatives to universal masking? How come you didn't explain that? You have exceptions. Okay, you passengers under 2 are exempted from the mask mandate. What's the basis for that? Is a child 2 years old far less likely to spread COVID than a child who's 3 years old who has to wear a mask? There was no explanation, nothing. And you mentioned Fauci being a bumbling idiot.
Yeah.
He actually said, well, these kinds of decisions should be made by health officials and not courts. Well, I think I've said before, He doesn't have a law degree. He doesn't understand how the frigging government works.
Bingo.
Way, that's a direct quote, by the way, from Steve. I want to just put a stamp on that. This is a direct quote from Fauci.
No question.
He did it. He did it in that tone too.
Yeah.
Like, he was mad when that happened.
He could be mad all he wants, John, but the bottom line is he once again proves he's a fool. He's a fool and an idiot. And
he thinks he's got power.
And he thinks he's got overwhelming power, and
because
doesn't.
He's a government official that is not elected.
Yeah.
And
I'll hate on Fauci all day long.
No. We need to hate on this goes with what we've always talked about. This is November 2022 and 2024 are going to be huge for this country because people are sick and tired of this BS. We're not sick of COVID.
Right.
Well, yes, we are sick of COVID.
No, we're sick of COVID, but we're not sick of it in the aspect of we're not taking precautions that we're supposed to.
Right.
We're sick of these fucking douchebags trying to tell us stuff that we, as educated humans, understand. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why did you just say that on TV?
Yeah.
This is why. This is also why these judges now have to come in and help us. This is how the world works.
Yeah.
To be like, you can't do that because they're not listening to us. We're saying no, and they're going, well, screw you.
Screw you.
I
know what's better for you.
Thank God for these judges that are coming out and, iron fist.
Yeah.
I hope Biden's fucking pacing in the White House right now. He's like, well, I can't mask people now. What am I going to do? Do something else, dude.
Yeah.
Go away.
Go take a nap.
I'm glad you brought up like influenza and allergies and stuff because that was part of the rationale of the court was like, look, if they've got this broad power to prevent illness, that they can just mask everybody who's riding a train.
Yeah.
How far does that go?
Japan and China already went through this with the smog and the infectious diseases, and Japan's a little more of a democracy. I wouldn't call it an actual democracy, but they forced that, and then about half the population now wears masks all the time. China did it years and years ago as a safety precaution, a communist safety precaution. I'm pretty surprised Putin never did it. It's a weird concept of I'll save you because I'm me.
Yeah,
dude,
I'll get all the credit. I'll get all the credit for saving lives.
It's weird.
Don't even get into China. China is a good example of what happens when your centralized government has the kind of power that Fauci wants.
No question.
They are starving people in Shanghai for zero COVID.
25 million people held hostage. Can you believe that, guys? I mean, that is an unbelievable. I'll never forget that video, and that video was authenticated. That some people were yelling and screaming out of their own apartments.
That's what happens when you sit on your couch and you don't do anything.
Absolutely.
That's exactly. But to the citizens who I feel terrible for, they have no right of recourse because that's murder. That's not me or Matt or Steve getting wiped off of Facebook and we don't get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what happens in the United States. These people will get murdered. And I understand that they don't have a fight.
Yeah. They don't have the courts. You know what the courts are in China, John? The courts are basically the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah.
The court is Xi Jinping. That's the court.
If we run into an issue like we did with government overreach, we have a judges and that can
we have an appeal process and we have all kinds of stuff.
And we can keep it in the courts for a very long time.
Absolutely.
And listen,
it's different, but it's also don't go down that path of wanting to just be like, oh, the government said so. We'll just keep going because that's what you're going to turn into.
That's the point. People make a stink of like, oh, well, why are you flipping out over having to wear a mask? It's not that big a deal. Okay, it's masks this time. But you let the government get away with things they're not supposed to do under the statute and the way the government is set up. And then next time, and it gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
That's how communist governments start.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just
if anybody is listening to this and they're like, these guys are full of shit, research Venezuela from 1972 to 81. Just get deep into that of what that government did. Those people were free as fuck in 1969.
Mm-hmm.
They are not now.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of bullshit that got them there.
One of the funniest stories I think I've ever heard, and this actually happened in the 1950s, guys. China had instituted a no sparrow policy. Okay, so you're thinking, well, what the heck is that? Their idea was we have to kill all of the sparrows in the population in China. So they ended up doing that. For about 3 years, they started killing off sparrows everywhere.
Native?
Well, no, it wasn't that
No,
it was
they were
native.
not native.
They're not, but the problem was like they were eating like all of the mosquitoes and all the other pests.
Yep.
And the next thing you know, 3 years later, their crops are virtually destroyed. And they had to import sparrows back into the country in order for them to get rid of all of the pests again. This is the logic that we're coming up. I mean, this is ridiculous.
That's Communist 101.
Bingo.
Look at any communist government. That's Communist 101. They make decisions from a high, from a king's perspective.
We will have a zero whatever policy. Okay, well, how are we going to achieve that? You know?
That's it. But it's the same thing with now Texas is in a huge fight to get rid of cedar trees. Because what happened in Texas during the liberal part of Texas many years ago, they imported a bunch of cedar trees here and they're not native here. So they eat all the water. So now all the lakes and everything is drying up because cedar needs more water than what's native here. Now they're on the flip side.
Amazing.
To get rid of all the cedar because some bureaucrat made a stupid decision.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an agricultural degree.
Yeah.
But he has a degree
or a scientific mind or a scientific common sense mind that a cedar tree is going to absorb more water than other trees.
That's all over the United States.
Yeah.
You can find that in every small town, of that government overreach. But I like that this judge put such a clear, concise, and this is it. You can't argue this decision, at all.
Clearly, the Biden administration, they're going to try and appeal, and I don't. At the time of this recording, and Saturday,
how can you appeal that though?
I don't know how you can.
Well, you have the right to appeal.
You have the right to appeal.
No, absolutely, and he should appeal.
But I don't know what the ramification. I don't know if that's going to go anywhere. That's my question. And I don't know. We haven't researched that far in. We'll have to maybe do that in 82 if news comes out on that. Maybe down the road we'll have to take a look at that. But it'd be fascinating to see if they do go through the appeal, how they would go through with it.
I think he'll say he'll appeal, but I think that he knows. Biden's been a politician for many, many years.
You don't say.
Biden knows when he's beat, and he can move to the next thing.
Are you sure about that? We are talking about Joe Biden here.
But the Biden, like the original Biden, he was very quick to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's true. Good.
Which he already has with the military vehicles that are going to be Earth you know what I mean? Like, he's not even paying attention to this. That's the way Biden works.
Yeah.
The transportation mandate was on its last legs anyway. I mean, they were extending it for periods of 2 weeks at a time,
which was weird and stuff.
So, if the appeal is going to take longer than it would to have repealed the mandate anyway, just because it's time
I don't think he's going to politically moving closer to November. I don't think he touches it. I think he lets it fall to the wayside. And he moves on.
You have to move on.
Politically, he has to move on. He's already so down in the polls.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh my gosh. At that point, why do I? And it seems like every time, too, guys. If you guys notice, we'll wrap this up. Have you ever guys noticed too that whenever it seems like there's one piece of the puzzle or one piece of the pawn that gets moved in this chessboard, it's almost a kingmate on the other side. Yeah. It's like somebody will try and make a move. What I mean is, like, the government will make a move and think it's smart, and then all of a sudden they leave themselves completely vulnerable to, like, a checkmate position. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you trying to do with all of this? It's so ridiculous.
I don't think they know.
They half-assed this transportation mandate thing.
Yeah.
No question.
There were ways you could have tried to move it through.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have complied with the notice and comment period.
Mm-hmm.
That could have saved you some headache. But you
Sure.
would have had pushback by then because we're a year in.
Yep.
At that point, right?
And a 30-day grace period, essentially, Steve, is a good thing. I mean, if they would have followed the letter of that law, that would have been beautiful, because then it's like you get people to say, I'm not so sure about that. And it's like they have to then go back and do the whole thing. And they can't
Last point on this.
Go for it, Johnny.
They wanted to get it through. They didn't care if it helped or not.
Yeah.
They just wanted to get it. They wanted to they were trying to make a difference without enough knowledge to make a difference.
Yeah.
And they didn't use their smarts. They used their ability to try something. Throw it at the wall, see if it sticks. That's what happened.
Well said. Yep. All right, guys, here we go. Topic 2, and this one from the Weird Space News File, I guess you could call it that, and Two Noobs.
That's an interesting intro.
Headline of theworldnews.net. Headline, Stop Revealing Earth's Location to Dangerous Aliens, NASA Warned. NASA's plan to beam Earth's location into outer space could provoke an alien attack, Oxford scientists have warned. Yikes. Researchers at the U.S. Space Agency have backed a broadcast message dubbed the Beacon in the Galaxy, intended to greet extraterrestrial intelligences. It is an updated form of the Arecibo message, broadcast in 1974, interestingly enough. It includes the solar system's location relative to major clusters of stars, along with digitized depictions of the solar system itself, Earth's surface, male and female humans. Message concludes with an invitation for people to respond. But of course, Oxford's going, warning, warning, don't do this, don't do this. It could also basically say that it could have a huge impact, that the aliens might say, oh, this is an invitation for us to attack. That kind of deal. Steve, since you're into huge science.
Let me interrupt, Steve. We have these.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The
these
iPhones.
are the most hackable things.
Yes.
In the world. We don't need to broadcast shit. They already know. Like if you are a right-wing or left-wing conspiracy theorist that literally thinks that the government is tracking you, what the fuck do you think aliens are doing, bro? Like, this is bigger than what they flew to the moon in 1969.
Don't rest his case.
Just to get the bullshit completely out of the way, this launched a NASA thing. And you're worried about your location? They already know where the fuck you are. That's the whole joke of me being an undisclosed location. Everybody knows where the fuck I am.
Oh my gosh.
Jesus, sorry, that just pissed me off.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's your podcast there, bud. Steve, what are your thoughts on this interesting article since you brought it to us?
Look, he's right. I don't think aliens are monitoring my phone.
I would hope not.
But they could if they wanted to.
But I mean, ever since at least since broadcast television was invented, the whole idea of broadcast television is the signal goes out and you have a dish that catches it.
Yep.
But you don't catch the whole thing. The rest of it just keeps going. So 1950s television is floating out in space.
Okay, let me get a little deep here. Do you really believe it just beams it to your house and it doesn't go up? That's the whole thing of the COVID atmosphere that I've been on. The atmosphere changes every 12 feet.
Okay.
So things can't. Wind is higher when you're above. Of course.
Yeah.
When you beam things out of things.
Uh-huh.
They don't just go there. They go everywhere.
Why do I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone? I don't know what's going on here.
John's just dumbing it down for people. That's all.
It just doesn't do what you think it does.
Oh my gosh.
Gotta open your mind to the fact that if you're beaming something to the right, it probably goes to the left at the exact same time.
Let me read a little bit further into this article, guys. Get your blind reaction to this. Dr. Sandberg, who was interviewed for this,
it's not Ryan Sandberg, right?
It is not. No.
Okay, thank you.
Told the Telegraph that although the chance of the message reaching an alien civilization was low, quote, it has such a high impact that you actually need to take it rather seriously. End quote. Continues on. He said that the giggle factor, surrounding the search for
bobbles factor.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah,
exactly. You want to laugh, so maybe that's why he did that.
Maybe surrounding the search for extraterrestrial intelligence meant that many people just refused to take anything related to it seriously, which is a shame because this is important stuff, according to him. Both the risk and the potential benefit were small, given the difficulty of traversing vast spans of interstellar space. A message received even by a very advanced civilization might amount to little beyond. As Dr. Sandberg put it, quote, a postcard saying, wish you were here, end quote. So that's his take. What are your takes? What are your reactions to that?
I think he's a nutcase.
There you go.
I believe in aliens probably more than he does, but I think he's a nut. I don't think he's not a conspiracy theorist to the point of that the aliens are closer than they're supposed to be or thought to be. He's more given a broad perspective of, it could reach aliens. But if you dive deep in aliens, you're not believing what he's saying. Because we've already done this. They already know where we are. And
John's getting fitted for a nice tinfoil hat.
I was just gonna say, like, where is it? I don't know if I have.
Dude, I'll read it. I'll read anywhere. I'll go completely left. I'll read anywhere. I have no issues. I want to know. I've seen some pretty interesting documentaries that I didn't go, I believe them, but I went, wow, that was well done.
I mean, heck, it goes further in this article. It says scientists like Stephen Hawking have in the past warned that these messages could be risky.
He totally did.
Look, the whole reason for this is, and Stephen Hawking has a point. Whenever you have people invading
my whole concept, and he didn't even know he just did it.
Go ahead, Steve.
I lost my train of thought.
Yeah,
the brain supplements.
Exactly. You need those brain
supplements. By you.
Oh, that's funny.
Stephen Hawking's point is: think about any time you've had a native civilization invaded by explorers, and what happens? It never ends well for the native population.
Well. Exactly. Okay. Yep.
Whether it's from war or disease, so even if you're going to take the position that an advanced alien civilization that had the technology to get here would have advanced beyond the need for warfare, they've ascended to some higher moral plane than us. You're still going to have the disease problem, which could work both ways too. By the way, just
sure, sure.
So his point is, by sending our position, by making it known we're here, an alien civilization is like, ooh, let's go over there and check them out. That may not end well for us.
Yeah, it may not.
It's his point.
Yeah,
it also might not end well for them.
True.
Yeah.
You don't, because we don't know what aliens are.
I was just going to say, like, if aliens landed in Texas, I think they would be taken care of, Johnny. I'm just saying. Like, don't mess with Texas. You have that state has that motto for a reason.
But what if they're like Independence Day, where they're like, they have like those pew-pews and we've got guns. They're like, whatever with your pew-pew, I got
Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum will go up there and infiltrate it. That's all right.
Go up with an Apple computer.
That's also why it's funny to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because the movies.
Oh, it's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. The movies, like, My thought on aliens, I'll just leave it at this, and I have nothing else to say about aliens. I'm not sure if we haven't found them or they already found us and it's already happened. I don't know, because A, I'm not a fucking space explorer, and B, I don't spend much time on this. I would think that they either found us or they're going to find us, and it's probably going to be the same result. I don't think our computers are the problem. I think this dude's full of shit, because I don't like Earth's pretty fucking big. I think they fucking found us already, or
it's not that big, John. It's not that big. Trust me.
Compared to Jupiter, yeah.
We compare it to the scale.
Other big things. I mean, you're eventually going to go by and be like, okay, so you don't go to GameStop when you're trying to go to Best Buy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, check out what's in there. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I don't think you have a grasp on scale here.
No, it's not. It's not. It's about, I don't have a grasp on scale of planets, but what I'm saying is investigative. If you're in this solar system, you've already checked it out.
If you're in the solar system, but the solar system itself is within the Milky Way galaxy, which is
understood,
vast.
But then that makes us irrelevant if we're not big enough.
True.
But that's
look, this is the guy's point. And I understand his point. And it is important, because if life does exist elsewhere, that is important. That answers a lot of questions.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah.
How did we get so lucky, right? So it's an important thing. And it's rare that we're going to find anything just because of sheer scale of things. But his point is this: why attract attention to ourselves? And invite that kind of danger. It's a small likelihood of danger, but so is getting hit by an asteroid. The problem is getting hit by an asteroid. The consequence is enormous. So when you multiply the consequence by the probability, it becomes more important to think about. Now, I agree with you, John. Television from the 1950s is already out there 70, 80 light years. Okay. So our existence is known somehow.
By who?
By who? By what?
We'll figure it out. But
I guess we'll cross the bridge when we get there.
Maybe they're already here. You don't know.
Well, look, the other thing too is if they know we're here. Listen, if they know we're here, do you think you're going to see an alien? No. What did we send them? Did we send people to Mars?
Not yet.
What did we send to Mars?
Only rovers.
The rovers. Yeah.
Robots.
Yeah.
What do you think the aliens are going to send here first?
Well, what do you think the fucking Roomba was that took over the girl's fucking hair when she was trying to read a book?
Well, that was a Terminator, but that's a different story.
Roombas are scary. My wife won't let me get one. I want one.
Oh my gosh. You guys are too rich. It's funny. Hey, speaking of weird things, and now another word from our sponsor.
All right, folks. You got problems with pests? Pam's Pest Control. You got critters in the basement, the attic, the crawl space. You got bats, rodents, insects, all kinds of nasties. Pam's Pest Control will come out, remove them in a humane, efficient, and effective manner. Mention this ad on Two Noobs and get a free renewal. That's pretty awesome, right? Hold on, there's a disclaimer on that coupon. It only applies to removal of chipmunks. And they have to be in the kitchen, in the cabinet under the sink for the coupon to be applicable. And the chipmunk has to be male. And it also has to be an adult over 2 years. This coupon is useless. It's got to have one black stripe and one white stripe on the back. What? It has to have a gimpy leg. Colostomy bag? This coupon is worthless. I don't know, guys.
Man alive, John. I mean, I'm going to have to start reviewing these contracts here for these like vendors of ours. I don't know about this, but man.
I just fired our advertising. We'll be fine next week.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay. It's just a little crazy.
I feel bad. I feel bad for the 3-year-old that has been booking this advertising, but he's fired, so it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Business is business. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, we got to pay the bill somehow.
At first, I thought it was great. We were giving our listeners, an advantage.
Yeah.
In this pest control, and then you got to have a gimpy chipmunk in your kitchen.
I mean, this toddler. I mean, I spend more on milk and salary than I do that I'm getting back on ads. So I fired him via text message during that advertisement.
There you go.
So
I would have preferred FedEx, but I'll take it.
He's little CM Punk there.
Little Eric Bischoff there, throwback.
Listen. His reign as our ad executive lasted longer than CNN Plus. Look at it that way.
Hey, and speaking of that, great segue, Steve.
And it did not cost us $300 million.
Love it.
Woo!
Topic 3, gents. Let's dive into this thing. Netflix. My goodness gracious. CNN article here. Call 11 and Sheriff Hopper of Stranger Things because Netflix world has been turned upside down. Why? Well, they've lost subscribers. First time it's happened in more than a decade. Mm-hmm. And the shares went straight down. 35% drop on Wednesday of this past week. It wiped out $50 billion. That's with a B dollars in market cap. And this was even after the company stock had dropped more than 40% year to date, guys.
Wow.
It's been horrible.
It's been a huge decline.
Horrible for Netflix, yeah.
I mean, is it like the Peloton effect where people stop subscribing to Peloton because we're now free to go back to gyms? Are people canceling Netflix because they can go outside?
Probably.
One wonders, yeah. I know their subscription is crap. Just for starters.
I mean, thank you, Matt, because I didn't even need to get into that.
I mean,
it is crap.
It is. It's like I mean, we were talking about in pre-production, John. You were talking about what with your wife
we're getting rid of it at the end of the month, and we're gonna look at another streaming service just because. I mean, I don't watch Netflix, so I can't shit on Netflix. It's not blah blah. Last time I watched it was Ricky Gervais's first season. And that was like 3 years ago. I haven't seen Netflix in 3 years.
Yeah.
But I was talking to my wife today, actually, about Netflix, prepping for the show, and asking her why do we have this subscription?
Yeah.
And to her point, she was like, I don't think we need it anymore.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't need to be, because there's nothing interesting on there. I think that's a part of it. I think it's also a part of these streaming services are just, people are starting to understand that it's like the TV when we had in like 07 or whatever, when like people started cutting cable.
Yep.
I think the streaming service has run that same kind of, like, people are tired of looking at the screen. Like, the blue screen is not fun for your mental health.
No.
All the time. It's not good. Like,
you gotta get outside and kind of do stuff.
Yeah. To Steve's point, with now that we're allowed to go back outside, maybe we don't need that so much.
Yeah.
Because we get to go. I like to just sit out on my deck and just take in sun. It might be better for my mental health than watching a screen all the time.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite things, whenever you read an article like this about a company really going into the tank, it's like, well, okay, what's the blame, right? You got to blame something, right?
Always.
So I scrolled down here in the article, and it says this: the company, Netflix, blames many factors for its subscriber exodus. Competition, widespread password sharing, which I don't think that's not even close to what's going on here. Netflix also pointed fingers at macro factors that are affecting many companies right now. Sluggish economic growth, increasing inflation, even though they increased their subscription costs.
Yeah.
They did that. not the rest of the company. Come on. They did that. And also, the Russian war with Ukraine. They lost 700,000 subscribers.
Well, I thought they kind of minimized that. They were like, well, even if you take that out of the equation, they still lost more than like 2 million or something.
They lost more than they're letting on. I think they're just blaming what the news is reporting.
Yeah.
Trying to get away with it, basically. Like, oh, inflation, all this, all that. It sounds very similar to everybody else.
I remember I think it was a free trial. I was like, well, okay, pandemic, need a streaming service, need to check it out. I'll check out Netflix, see what's going on.
Why not?
And there was nothing. There was literally nothing on that streaming service that I looked at and said, yeah, I'm going to sit down with a tub of popcorn and waste an hour of my life. There was nothing there. Nothing.
It was cool. It was cool back in the day.
Yep.
So you didn't have to go to the movies.
Yeah. And you could catch a lot of the old television shows.
But when the whole subscription service started, that's when, because then it became privatized, and then I can't watch this here, I can't watch that there, I can't watch this here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It became cable. As quick as it was the alternative to cable, it became the same exact thing of cable.
Yeah.
I still have cable, by the way.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that too, Steve, because I cut the cable subscription, but obviously have the high-speed internet. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having Too Noobs right now.
Which, by the way, they made super expensive.
Yeah.
Like, because people were cutting the cable.
Oh yeah. And so it's interesting, but so this kind of poses the question: what do they do to try and build it back up again, or is it going to eventually die?
I think John's onto something. Originally Netflix weren't they originally like the mail DVD?
The mail service, yeah.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. It was
they killed Blockbuster because of that.
No ridiculousness. Like Netflix was the most Netflix was more efficient than the post office.
Yeah,
well, it's funny because the post office delivered it.
No, but you know what I mean. Like they were like, you would put one in the mail, right?
Yeah.
And when it reached its distributor location, that distributor location sent it back, so you weren't waiting. I remember because I was a huge, big Netflix DVD person.
Oh yeah.
More so than the streaming.
Yep.
We would have movie night. It was like Wednesday. It was Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Mm-hmm.
It was always like, it was a thing back. I'm talking like mid 2000, maybe 2010, 11.
Mm-hmm.
So what my household was, and I lived with a couple people, it was movies that we were interested in that were showing each other. And we met each night. We weren't never wait. Stream services even easier. Like that would have been even easier, but their DVD service was better.
Well, here's my point.
Than their streaming service.
Here's my point where I was going with this was originally they started out as a DVD thing. Mm-hmm. So they had movies, shows from all over the place. Mm-hmm. Now everybody's getting into their own, you've got the NBC Universal stuff is all on its own streaming service.
You're
HBO Max is all on its own streaming. Disney Plus is all on. So there's nothing left for Netflix
to have.
They have to come up. Now they're doing their own programming, right? Which I know nothing about because I don't have Netflix. So
it's not that good, I can tell you.
But so maybe they're being deprived of more general content by these other studios that are now doing their own streaming, and that's
very possible.
Ultimately leading to its downfall.
I think
possible.
I think that's a huge understanding of it, because when they first started with the disc, they had everything.
Right, they did. Yeah, they literally that service, John. To your point, that service of mailing the DVDs out
Mm-hmm.
Guess what went away? Blockbuster. Blockbuster died because people were basically going to Netflix and saying, I want this DVD here.
Yeah,
they weren't
Hollywood-
finding it at a
Hollywood-
Blockbuster. They were finding it on Netflix online. They would
Hollywood
literally
Video-
get it.
Blockbuster and West Coast Video
West Coast?
all
Mhm.
folded within the first 3 years of Netflix
No question.
because they were doing it by mail.
Yeah.
But to Steve's point, when they got into the streaming, it became the legality started coming. Well, you can have all this because what Netflix was doing was buying the DVDs, so everybody was making money, right? And they were mailing them out.
Yeah, but then NBC was like, "Whoa, wait, why are we letting Netflix distribute our stuff? We can distribute our on our own.
I'll
streaming
distribute our own. Yeah,
And
exactly.
That's where Peacock comes from. That's where Hulu comes from. That's where they all figured out a different way of streaming, and I think Netflix just
and they fell behind the times.
It becomes
because of that.
It becomes Blockbuster because now everybody learned that it could be.
Yeah, they could do it
could be
on
done
their own.
differently.
Yeah, they could do it on their own. They don't have to.
anything.
They don't have to go out and give it to like any sort of other streaming service. They know now that they could just house it on their own, and Netflix is kind of left holding the bag, kind of going like, okay,
Why
what
would
do we do
Disney
here?
Plus or Peacock negotiate with Netflix?
You wouldn't. Why would you?
Because you've already launched your service.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the real reason. But here's one thing I never understood about Netflix though was like, I would see articles online. It would be like, "This is what's leaving Netflix this month."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What?
What?"
They were over. This is the funny part about Netflix. The owners of Netflix were over involved, like they were movie producers. And I think that turned a lot of people off with the stream service because you had like Netflix originals. Nobody was watching that shit. Nobody cared about that shit.
Yeah.
I think the Netflix owners thought they took over Hollywood, but they really didn't.
Yeah.
And I think that's where like the downfall started because it was like they were signing like Barack Obama had a $30 million contract with Netflix. The fuck are you gonna what is Barack Obama gonna put on fucking video that anybody can watch?
For $30 million?
But my question was, it was like, all right, well, Predator is coming off Netflix this month. It's like, why are you taking stuff off?
Because they were trying to play the niche. They were trying to grab stuff because they were doing those short-term contracts. But they also had long-term contracts, which was great. Like they did not do business well.
I was just going to
streaming end.
I was just going to say, Steve, was Predator made by Universal Studios?
No, I'm not talking about like it's leaving because Universal was pulling it back. It was like, we're making room for some other stuff that we're bringing in.
Yeah,
and I'm like, do you not have the server space?
Yeah,
to keep all of it.
Well, that was it. That was the bad business. They were trying to reinvent themselves, and they didn't do.
And they just didn't.
Going into the streaming, they did not reinvent themselves.
No,
very well at all.
Well, and to your point, John, this is really interesting. Towards the end of the article, you know what the stopgap for the lost revenue is going to be for Netflix? They're going to crack down on password sharing. That'll show them.
Yeah. That'll
because those people who can't use the passwords anymore, they're going to sign up for Netflix.
Exactly. We're going to charge you a fine of $5. You know that kind of really
signing up for Netflix at this point.
Oh my!
It's obvious.
Yeah, it's also obvious that streaming services, obviously don't mix as well either, too, because you're talking about CNN Plus, which I think you want to talk about a flame on situation.
30
man,
$300 million to launch that, and it lasted 21 days.
That you're talking about taking a piss in the toilet. My God, that went so fast. The
question is, how much money does CNN have? Because
I don't know.
I can't lose $300 million in 21 days.
I think CNN will survive. I don't.
Well, I hope they don't. Yes, I think they will. I think they have enough.
What are your thoughts if you're Chris Wallace right now? Honestly, I mean, you left to start this.
But he's a douche anyway.
So well, I know, but what are your thoughts? Like, if you're him, you're like, yeah, this is going to be great, and I'm going to be a part of this.
I don't think the dude knows his ass from a hole in the wall. Why would you leave Fox for CNN? Why wouldn't you just leave Fox and do a podcast? Because you're a douchebag that has heat with both the left and the right?
Pretty much.
Start your own podcast, a la Two Noobs. Start your own podcast, get your own fucking heat. He'd probably make more money. This douchebag walked across the street and went to CNN. Why would you do that in this day and age?
Don't know.
Alternative media is way more popular in this world than network is.
Then your network is.
Deserves to be this fucking Why would you do that?
I don't know. I don't know.
I have just a more general basic question, which is,
yeah, go for it.
You know, I can see subscribing to Disney Plus because
Star Wars.
You know, I can watch a shit ton of Disney movies.
Sure.
Awesome.
Sure.
All the Disney movies, all Marvel,
Marvel.
I understand, but Star Wars, their catalog is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Now, yeah, right. So that's a reason you would subscribe to Disney Plus. You would subscribe to Peacock.
Easy, yeah.
For the same reason.
Peacock, because same thing. You're gonna have you got the Despicable Me's in there. You got all kinds of NBC, sitcoms and shows.
You get live football on Peacock. You get the WWE Network, which
right
isn't anymore.
There you go.
So you get I understand why these exist.
So riddle me this. What's on CNN Plus is to get me all excited?
What was on CNN Plus? That's my question.
Okay, what was?
I don't know. That's my question.
Were we to hop in a time machine and go back 20 days
Can you imagine?
And not become my own father? What would have gotten me excited about subscribing to CNN Plus?
It sure as hell ain't Chris Wallace.
Do people really want streaming subscriptions to watch news?
I mean, unless.
Question though, the most interesting thing CNN ever produced ever.
Okay.
Did they have the Iraq War, the first one?
See, now that
on the streaming service, because that's something
I would totally rewatch that.
That was some of the best TV I ever saw.
I would totally rewatch that. Absolutely, yes, I would totally watch that all over again.
I still remember 1992, where the
Bernard King is held up in a hotel in Iraq in downtown Baghdad,
and the tank was going over the bridge. It looked like the bridge was made by our children. It was like the ricketiest bridge ever. But it's going over, and all of a sudden, this is a memory from 1991 or 92.
Absolutely, yep.
And you see these things. It's like it seems like they're throwing things at them at a high rate of speed, which I would assume to be bullets. Are hitting the tank, and the tank turns and goes boom.
You would totally rewatch that.
It just rolls out of the fucking gully like it was nothing, and the building just goes. That's what I realized. The U.S. military is far more advanced than most people.
Oh yeah, 100%. I would love to go back and rewatch that, and then also rewatch some of the old Larry King lives. You know, when he had the light bright world behind him. I mean, it was great back in the day. Must see television.
I can pretty much guarantee that doesn't sound like what CNN Plus was probably.
I don't think so either. Yeah, it was getting you more of Brian Stelter. That's what it was. It was all about Potato Head.
If they would have done old Larry Kings and like old broadcasts,
hell yeah,
I'll bet you they would have brought in more subscribers than what they.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. When CNN was actually a news channel.
Yeah.
They are not now, and
I was just going to say they're not.
Congratulations!
Well, they're not a streaming channel.
They're not a streaming service either. All right, guys. Topic 4 as we close out Two Noobs. Jay Wright of the Villanova Wildcats retiring. I mean, I have a good friend of mine who lives across the way here in the condo building that I live in, and he graduated from Villanova, and he and I have gone back and forth, obviously, about the whole retirement and everything. I said to him, he's probably going to be the best Big Five coach ever in the history of the city, basically because of what he had done, the Final Fours, the national titles, all that kind of stuff. He seemed to agree. John, what are your thoughts on Jay Wright? I know you love John Chaney, which I really appreciate that. But Jay Wright, let's talk about him, right?
I have no issues with Jay Wright. Like Jay Wright,
How could you not?
Jay Wright did what he was supposed to do and what he was hired to do, and that's what makes him so great. He was brought in to revamp that program.
Yeah.
That 85 and prior, the success that they had, it's stability, and he did a phenomenal job.
Mm-hmm.
Put some dudes into the NBA too.
Oh yeah.
Really good coach. I understand. I understand why someone would vote him as he's definitely in. I don't want to just say number one coach. I think everything should be Mount Rushmore.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I feel about things, because we're all going to have different opinions.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But he's absolutely on the Mount Rushmore.
No doubt.
Of Big Five.
Yep. No doubt. Steve, what do you think? I know you're Temple, but yeah, it's like.
Well, I was happy for the city that Villanova won those couple of championships under his watch.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't regularly root for Nova just because I went to Temple and I'm like,
hell yeah.
He didn't just go to Temple; he went to Temple and then Temple Wall.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I was 7 years, man.
Yeah, he did some business.
Oh yeah.
7 years, and Temple's seen its share of coaches from John Chaney and Frank Dunphy, and but yeah, Jay Wright did wonders for the program. John says he's put some guys in the NBA. I mean, other than Kyle Lowry, who became a pretty big star in his own right, I don't know that there's that many in the NBA.
There's not a lot in the NBA
who became like big time. So he's been able to do it without kind of the factory
the
like
5-star recruits or
North Carolina,
the ones and dones, and
he put a lot of role players in,
yeah,
which actually makes him a better coach, because you taught a bunch of dudes how to play basketball, and you weren't focusing on the superstar.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Other than the Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I don't think Kyle Lowry was even he became one over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was his own. I think Jay taught him fundamentals.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's what that actually makes sense of you saying that. I think he might have been a good fundamental coach.
Yeah.
Because all the players that are in the NBA are completely 100% fundamental. They do everything.
Pretty straightforward, yeah.
Yeah.
They're not going to lead the league in scoring. I mean, we already got that in Joel. But we don't, like with his teams, they were complete teams. Like the 2016 team, I think, was probably his best defensive work that I've ever seen. The 2018 team, that they just got hot and they just blew people out. That tournament run in 2018 was ridiculous. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Bridges team, right?
I think Bridges was on the team, in 2018. Right. Yeah. Jenkins was the 2016 and Archie Diacono and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, they were terrific defensively. The 2018 team, though, they just had athletes up and down the roster. And the one thing that really kind of frustrated me was when Temple's student section tried to get on Jalen Brunson. That's something you don't do, and Jalen just practically took over the team when Villanova was playing Temple those couple of years. And it was just like, okay, I think we need to drop the act. He torched us for 25, 30 points, which is a tremendous amount of points in college basketball. But yeah, it's funny too. I was talking to my friend Steve across the way, and went to Nova, and he was like, the one thing that was comical about Jay Wright was the fact that he couldn't draw up an inbounds pass. Every inbound pass was a clusterfuck. It was crazy. I said, that was hilarious. Like, he couldn't do a simple pick and roll to get the guy open, to throw the ball and get open. It's just like, that never crossed his mind. Nope, never crossed his mind. But he loved, obviously, what he did for I couldn't agree with you guys more, really, with the impact that he made on the university and in the city, too. I'll never forget, too, one other thing. with him was, oh, well, Villanova's in Radnor. It's not in Philadelphia. It's in the main line.
That's nonsense.
It is.
That's
They're
nonsense.
part of the city. You know, they're in Delaware County, but for crying out loud.
It's nonsense. It's just not. It's nonsense.
Yeah.
That's Philly for what it is.
For its stupidity. Yeah.
Villanova, he goes down as he's at least a top 4.
Look, to me, the only thing missing from his resume is he did not threaten to kill John Calipari.
And if he would be higher than Cheney.
Well, for sure, yeah.
If he would have did what Mike Tyson did on that flight just once to John Calipari, he'd have a statue in front of the Spectrum where they never play.
Can you imagine? I often wonder about that, especially like Jay Wright getting upset to the point where he's getting ready to throw down.
Look, it would have been awesome just to hear Jay Wright once go, "I'm gonna kill you."
But that's also the funny thing about Jay Wright. The media presence that man had.
Yeah.
You can learn a thing or two from Jay Wright now in media. He handled it very Andy Reid-esque, which I always think Andy Reid handled the media the best that the Philadelphia media has ever been handled.
Much better dressed than Andy Reid, though.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. But
no question.
I always thought, and this is the thing I love about him the most. I always thought that Villanova was his stepping point, and years ago he was going to leave us for Kentucky, and he never did. And that was where the respect came, because this dude never left.
21 years.
It's time for him to retire now.
It's fascinating because like the discussion point would be, does he come back? And I keep thinking, what more do you need to prove at this point?
Yeah.
Fire Doc Rivers and put him in there. I'm okay with that.
He's not taking an NBA job.
I'm just messing around.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and there were rumors that the Sixers were indeed looking at him. I remember that. A couple of different times. And he was like, I'm fine being a college coach. I don't need, the pro game.
I'll just say this as a Sixers fan. I would not mind Jay Wright's brain with Harden and Embiid. I would not have a problem with it.
Okay.
I would not have a problem with it.
Okay.
Except on inbounds passes.
Except on the inbounds.
Well, we already know it works out. Just put Toby on the side. And just shoots a 3 and they win.
And they win. That's right.
The most unlikely of scenarios ever. Just put your power forward out there, and he'll just inbound to your center, and your center will just.
And the center will jack up a 3 and switch.
Jack up a 3.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
A little bit like Jay Wright.
But I mean, the memories that he's given not only Villanova but the city. I mean,
he made Villanova relevant again.
That college is like 5,000 to 6,000 kids, and
he did what John Chaney did for Temple in the 90s.
Yes,
he did it again, and what Fran Dunphy did again when Fran Dunphy left Penn and then went to Temple. And there are so many good coaches in the Big Five.
This is a loss for the Big Five. This really is a huge loss. Really
they're losing probably their best living coach.
Yeah.
And probably their best coach in the last 20 years.
Easily in the last 20.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big loss for the Big Five, but at the same time, it gives a chance to kind of reset, and you never know what's going to happen with the next round of coaches. You got McKee and Temple, and I think it's Perkins is now taking over the reins, and he's kind of like a disciple of Jay Wright, so you never know how that's going to continue and go forward.
Big Five basketball is important for the city.
It's arguably one of the best best rivalries that you'll ever find in the NCAAs.
If you like basketball, Big Five is important.
Yeah,
it totally. It's not, and not a lot of. They don't get a lot of viewership.
No, they're on FS1 and yeah.
Yeah, they do get a lot of love from people who like basketball.
Yeah.
Losing him sucks, but I'm excited to see what happens. Maybe that dude learned a lot from him.
Oh yeah.
Maybe he felt like he was done.
Absolutely.
Congratulations to him. Great coach.
Hey, we just go off in the sunset, and you could just hang out and just be in the coach's box or whatever in the suite and in the fin and be happy with that. That kind of deal.
Look, I hope he fails spectacularly.
We could use him for like maybe about 5 more years. That kind of build up the program a little bit. Maybe go in the tournament, go deep. I'm just saying
that would be cool. That'd be cool if he jumps the Temple. That would make Temple just as cool as he made Villanova.
Never know.
You might need to put him next to Billy Penn.
You never know. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Be interesting to see what they do, like in terms of if this. I don't think the stadium is basically it's gifted to a guy who gave the most money.
Mm-hmm.
In Villanova. Yeah. So then the question is, okay, is he on the floor? Do they name the floor after him? Do they circle him? Yeah.
Jay Wright made Rolly was the man there.
Yeah, he was. Yep.
And Jay Wright did enough work to.
I think he's supplanted.
Oh, you think he's supplanted him?
Yeah, no, absolutely. He won. Look, Rolly won a national title as a Cinderella.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. They're not beating Georgetown. Come on. Jay Wright won 2 national championships as a legit, possible winner.
And in different ways. Yeah. One defensively, one offensively. So that you can't go wrong.
He takes over the coach that was the iconic coach.
Yep.
So yeah, I think everything gets named. Like he probably should get a building. He probably should get a stadium. Like he's the best that ever did it at Villanova, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny that you mentioned that too, John, with the building, because I've always thought, and I've mentioned this, my friend, they should knock down the football stadium and build a 20,000 seat stadium for the basketball team, make it a whole arena, kind of like the Liacouras Center.
Yeah, but
he was laughing at that. He was just like, they would never do that. One, Radnor Township, they would never allow a stadium that big. And I'm like, well, okay, that makes sense.
And did Brian Westbrook play at Villanova?
Yeah, exactly.
So football to everybody in this world, because Brian Westbrook exists, probably one of the greatest athletes ever. Villanova football is amazing because Brian Westbrook exists.
Came from there, yep. And Howie Long too, and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, okay,
I forgot that Howie Long went to Villanova.
Yeah, Howie Long way back in the day.
Good job, Howie, moving to LA and getting your kids into real good schools. Good work, Howie Long. That's the Philadelphia way right there.
There you go. That's what it's all about.
Love Howie Long.
There you go. All right, so that wraps it up, guys. Episode 81 of Two Noobs Talking. Just always great to spend time with you tonight and having a lot of fun. Pre-infos. Too much fun. Absolutely.
Matt's ready to go to bed. Let's do.
Oh, I'm dead. I'm done.
Get out of here.
Let's tap it out. Shameless plugs. Let's hit them up. Johnny, where can people find us, bud?
We are on TikTok, Clapper, which we've actually gained 100 followers in the last 2 weeks.
Woo! Love it.
Hell yeah, Clapper. We love your love, and hopefully we can get that message out to you. And maybe we'll do some lives for you guys because you like our content. So we'll figure something out. We're also
on all those followers just in time for us to have technical difficulties.
Exactly. Perfect time. We're on Instagram Reels. We are on Facebook Reels. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter.
Bing, bing,
bing. We are on pretty much anything that will host our dumbasses, and we're doing good with it. So
love it.
Check us out for short videos to lead us to our
main YouTube channel, the Two Noobs Talking Podcast. We'd love it, of course, if you like, share, subscribe, and get notified when our new episodes drop. Pending technical difficulties, but on the audio side,
they're blaming me.
No, we're not blaming you. On the audio side, whoa, look at that, Mr. Steve Murray. Where can people find us audibly, if that's a word?
Audibly. People may find us at the Podbean. It's really just sort of more of a distributor. As I put my dollars away, Podbean's more of a distributor, gets us out to Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, who we're going to call Pam's Pest Control to have removed, but only if it's a chipmunk with a colostomy bag.
Awesome.
I didn't laugh.
There you go. Our show notes can be found at twonoobstalking.wordpress.com. Links to all of our articles are listed there. Feel free to check them out there. My thanks to Steve. My thanks to John for joining me. Episode 81 of Two Noobs. It's on 82. Until then, talk to you all guys next week. Take care.
If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed. That's a great question. What is the long-term effect of too much information? One of the effects is the need to be first, not even to be truly informed.